one point I decided to go with the vintage air setup the way it came through the wall. Once I got to studying on that a little bit, decided it was too ugly. The heater hose control valve would be on the outside of the firewall. Didn't care for any of that, but I'd already drilled the holes. So that's why my bulkhead fittings are in the position they're in, because that's where the holes were marked when I made a template and drilled the holes. So now I'm backing up and I'm gonna put the heater control valve behind the firewall on the inside. So I've got some routing to do. And now I have bulkhead fittings, which means I have to make connections behind the firewall. So it's gonna be tight, but we'll get it done and it'll look good. Thought about going through the side of the firewall and into the fender, routing the hoses around. And then they would come out down low in the front. But I've already drilled the holes, so I'm gonna use that. Got the evaporator set up in here, just hanging there by one bolt. I did that so I could see how much clearance I would have. I think I've got enough. If I hadn't drilled the holes, like I said, I would have went out the old vent through the side of this into the fender and routed it around that way. You wouldn't even see most of the hose. But now that I've got the holes, I'm gonna keep going that way. So I got down here and I looked at all my connections. Here's a -10. I've got a straight fitting that's gonna go straight out into the flexible hose. It's gonna route kind of just back into that -10 here with a 90-degree metal fitting. So you got to kind of put everything in place, figure out if you got room for your lines, which I think I do. Then you got to just go for it. So what I did to start with was kind of held some things in place to see if I had enough room. I believe I do. I've got a 45. Be my lower one. So that one's a 6. Everything else is going to be a 10. These two are going to be for the heater, 2 heater lines, and this one will be for the -10 AC line. So first thing I need to do, get all my bulkhead fittings in. So I'm going to take this back out of the way. Right now it's just held up by one bolt. The evaporator's out of the way. Now we can put our bulkhead fittings in. Before I drill that firewall, I'm going to do it on a scrap piece of metal just to make sure that I know where to stop on the step bit. Really need to drill this from the outside. There's not enough room. Just trying to sneak up on it real slow. The lip is not, there's not much room for air. We'll put some sealant around this, put it in and tighten it up. 3 more to go. So much for my beautiful firewall. So I bought this with all 4 of them in it, but they come out. I'm going to use them individually. Just gives me a little more room under there, and I'm able to use those holes that I already started. This thing has got 2 panels because there's the original panel, and then I put a whole piece over top of it. I left the original in there, and there's a little bit of filler on that piece I put in, trying to keep it from chipping it out too bad. So I taped up the holes. Now I'm putting panel bond adhesive all in there. I'm trying to fill in as much as I can. So when I put these in, I want them to stay. I do not want them to twist when I go to tighten up the fittings on both sides. So that's why I'm using panel bond. It's going to seal it to make sure it does not turn. The only way to get these out is going to be to drill them. So hopefully we'll never have to take them out. Taping the ends up so I don't get any panel bond in there. All right, got them all in. Now I got to make sure there's absolutely no panel bond on the threads or inside the tube. Cannot have it. It will mess everything up. Panel bond can create a lot of problems. We're gonna clean this thing up really good. Rag and lacquer thinner, a nylon brush to go over the threads, whatever it takes to get them super clean. There it is. I think if I hadn't already drilled those holes, I probably would have brought them out somewhere on the side if I could, just to keep all the hoses over here. Now I have to bring them across the middle, but that's okay. Live and learn. So now we can see if this is even gonna go on. Yeah. To get that one on. I think this one's going right there. So we'll bring this up. That one right beside it. We're getting there. All right. This is the way the unit sits in the vehicle. The way the kit is designed. This goes on here. There's another one that goes on the bottom. These are your two heater hoses. This end goes through the holes in the plate that bolts to the firewall. The -10 fitting on the evaporator. We also have, I think this is the right hose, but our number 6 line. So all of those would come through the holes in this plate. So instead of putting the plate on, I ended up slicking out the firewall. And now I've used bulkhead connectors to go through. So to make all that happen on the inside of the firewall, instead of using these, the bulkhead fitting is on the firewall now that these will connect to. So we're gonna have something like this. Kind of wish these were shorter, but this will work. We end up with this fitting going straight. The ones that were sent with the kit, I'm going to screw to the firewall and turn them facing the passenger side. Went and got this assortment of hoses, because if you try to just turn a heater hose line around, it's very likely to crimp and restrict flow. So I've got a 180 that should join these two together and not restrict the flow. It's going to go around the loop into the fitting and out the firewall. The bottom connector will have to go into this valve, which in their kit is designed to be on the outside of the firewall, but so we're going to put it behind the firewall. What I'm probably going to do is mount it vertically, and with my assortment of hoses, I'll be able to make that happen. I've also got this -6 line to deal with. So let me see if I can put some of these lines together to give you an idea of what it's going to look like. If you're not familiar with what this is, it's called an easy clip system. It's for AC hoses. It's really a lot better than the old crimp style. The hose is more flexible. Definitely the way to go when you're doing like a custom install like this. So to make these two heater hoses do what I wanted to, I bought one hose that was pre-bent 180. I didn't have to cut this one or anything. I just slipped it on. I put one end of the 180 loop there, and the other end went into the fitting that was supplied with a kit. This will go onto the bulkhead fitting. On this one, I bought two different hoses that had 90-degree bends in them, and I cut the pieces out that I needed to go on each side of the heater control valve. So it took 3 hoses to do this one and this one. So I'll put a link below to Amazon where you can buy these hoses in case you want to do something crazy like this. Now these are zip tied just to kind of hold them in place, give you an idea how they're going to be routed. I'll cut those all loose before I stick it back in there. So all that will be behind the firewall. I have to be careful to get these all nice and straight with that O-ring so I don't mess it up. It's going to be really tight in there. Just try to get those connected. I think I can do it. Now before I stick this unit in, I've got to put my firewall insulation in. So let's get that done. Sound deadener's in, firewall insulation pad is in. Time to put the evaporator in. All right, evaporator's in. All the lines are hooked up to the bulkhead fittings. Got a couple things to strap down, but she's in there. So now all I have left is the plumbing for these lines. We'll do that next.